You want to scale your high ticket offer, make more money as an agency owner or a coach. Well, that sounds great. And I'm really happy that you want to do that. However, it comes with a bit of a caveat. To scale your high ticket offer, you need to have a few things incredibly dialed in, and especially on the sales process, which I really want to walk through today. So in this video, I'm going to go through exactly how to scale your high ticket offer, but specifically from your sales operations and sales management perspective, because the more data that we can manage and the better that we can manage our data, the more money that you can make. Let me give you an analogy. If you're trying to lose body fat and you really want to lose weight, if you step on the scales every single day, you will inherently lose weight because you will start to make the changes internally, consciously or unconsciously, to actually make the difference. This is exactly how you should manage the sales process of your high ticket offer, because the more granular we can be with the numbers and the tracking, the more changes that we can make. So I'm gonna walk through exactly what you need to do to scale your high ticket offer, and also what are the numbers we need to track. Because give it a backstory. For myself right now, Voex is a multiple seven-figure business. We've literally made multiple seven figures on the internet. However, one part of this for the big change was my evolution, like the person that I have to be, the identity and so on. One of it was managing my stuff, right? Because I have sales reps, I have closers, I have sales managers, and I have to be able to stay on top of all this stuff 24/7. So as the CEO or even as the founder taking sales calls, you need to have a closer look at the data. And you might think initially saying, Darren, I don't need that. Like I just need to hop on sales calls and so on. But look, you get to the point of having a multiple seven-figure business by being closer with the data. Take the perfect example of fitness. The guy that you see at the gym who's super big and shredded and doesn't have body fat but has loads of muscle, he didn't get there by guessing. He got there by tracking his workouts, tracking his nutrition, probably tracking his sleep, because the more granular we can be, the more money we can make. So what gets measured gets improved, and that's exactly what I'll show you today. So I want to get into the detail, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to track and the impact from this. And what we'll do is we'll pull over my laptop and we'll look specifically on this today and walk through exactly what it is. So if I just refresh my screen right here, this is actually live data from my own software company, Aura. So Aura is the CIA operative of sales. We are sales intelligence, and we provide sales data, sales insights on your data. So you might have a CRM right now, and the CRM is super clunky, right? It's out of date. You probably have a VA that you pay $4 a day to, manage everything. This actually automates, tracks, manages, and basically does everything for you. So all you got to do is hop on, connect your calendar, connect maybe Stripe, and you might even want to connect one or two other platforms to integrate with them, and all the data gets piped in and we measure everything together. And this is the exact process that we use to scale our high ticket offer. But the difference is we used to track everything manually inside of spreadsheets. So I literally have spreadsheets of us adding in like call, booked, set, shown. So we'll get rid of all of that. And what we're doing with Aura is basically automating all of this and providing you clear data insights. So let's take a quick look, okay? So if you want to scale your high ticket offer, there's a few things you need to do. You need to truly understand how many booked calls we're getting, okay? So if you look at specifically at your analytics, and if you come down here to my analytics, we need to know how much data is being piped in, okay? So how many calls are we taking? Because there's a lot to be said for ramming the volume, right? We need to know how much calls are being booked on a monthly basis. So if you want to hit 100K a month, you're going to need to take a lot of calls. If your offer is 2K, let's say, or 4K, let's say it's reoccurring, you may not need as much, but we need to know specifically how many calls that we need to take. So what we do is we integrate specifically with your calendar, all of your actual booking process, to know exactly how many calls are being booked on your calendar. And then we measure it month over month, because the more calls that we can take that are qualified, the more money that you're going to make. So specifically what you need to optimize for inside of your sales process is what are the calls that we're taking that are qualified that should be closing, because we need to look at the calls in terms of the leads. Are the leads A grade, they're ready to buy, they have the money? Are they B grade, ready to buy, they don't have that much money? C grade, they're not really ready to buy and they don't have that much money? Or D grade, they're quite frankly, respectfully, tire kickers. So knowing that is pretty important, guys. It's really, really important to understand your exact numbers of calls being booked, because that indicates the decisions you need to make. Do you need to ramp your volume? Do you need to set more? Do you eventually want to run more ads? What is you need to do to ram up that volume of calls? Now, as you know, right, calls is just one thing, but what we need to really look at is show rate. So as you see here, with this sample data that I put together for you guys today, the show rate in question is 74%. That means of the calls that are booked, that are qualified, how much show up? So what we do specifically is, especially with Aura, we manage this on a month-to-month basis. And you actually have the ability to toggle to between quarterly, so what's your show rate per quarter, or even day, is your show rate up and down and fluctuating quite a lot. Because as you can see here, the more money that we will make will depend on how many people show up to the calls. So what we basically do is just track this on an ongoing basis. So even at a dashboard level, at a high level, we need to know that all the calls that are coming in, how much leads are coming in, and how much leads are closing as a result. Because as you can see here, if we're bringing in 35 leads and there's 12 closes, that's pretty good. But it all starts from having the show rate and knowing exactly how much people are showing up on the call. So looking at it specifically, how many shows do we have? 14. How many no-shows do we have? 9. Okay. How do we interpret that data overall in terms of all the closes? So if you want to optimize your show rate, what we specifically will be doing with this as well is we'll have AI analysis running into you as a CIA intelligence as to how to optimize your show rate. But I'll just tell you today, right? Because of course you sit down to watch this video, so I want to show you exactly how. How we do this basically is having a crystal confirmation page. So when someone books a call, the crystal clear confirmation page shows you exactly what to expect. We call it a thank you video. So in that thank you video, it shows specifically, show up to the call, bring your numbers, here's case studies, here's testimonials, and we tell people quite literally, we're going to give you an offer. You can accept or reject, but we will give you an offer on the call. And it shows that we're kind of no bullshit, right? We're a very straightforward company. Obviously, I'm a very busy dude. I got a ton of stuff going on. So we tried to optimize that in the first instance. One of the first things we do is get people to show up. The second part of the show rate then is getting them to watch a VSL. So I have a 3-hour free training on YouTube, which is basically a VSL. We send every prospect that 3-hour video, and we either give them the video overall, or we might give them a part of the video and say, hey, watch this from 2 hours in. Because this will actually drive show rate up significantly. Now, more specifically, the thank you videos, which I described, that will actually get people to show up, and the VSL will get people to close, okay? So we got to tether this overall, because look, you get the best product in the world, which I know many guys have amazing products, but if their show rate is super low, it doesn't matter. One of my clients, Andrew, actually his show rate was like 30%. He was doing cold calling into a call. And what we just did is we optimized this process. We try to get this as high as possible, tracking all the data to know and show that exactly this is correct. Is it precise? Is it very precision orientated? And getting people on the call. The second thing then is also going to be close rate. So can we get people on the call ready to go? Because when they watch the VSL, we need to be able to track what our close rate is. Now, close rate is there's a lot of different factors involved. Specifically, is this close rate referring to you as the business owner who should be higher, or is it sales reps? But regardless, we need to know the close rate overall on a monthly basis. And with Aura as well, we'll be able to toggle the close rate between, is it reps, which individual reps are to have a higher, lower close rate? Also, is it you or is it them, and so on? Because we need to see this moving average, because the best way to improve close rate is a few things. It's actually before the call. One of the factors before the call would be getting them to watch the VSL, because they come educated, ready to actually make a difference and ready to actually make money. Because as you see, the show rate's going to jump up and down and up and down. That's one thing. The second thing then is understanding the call structure. So you as a sales rep or you as a founder, trying to get the very most out of it, doing the right pain discovery, finding the right problem, finding is it a duration of a problem, how long has it been an issue, basically. Really understanding the financial quantification, really understanding the partner objections, just what else is involved, basically, that could be restricting them from making more money or restricting them from solving their problems specifically. And then moving more into the process, explaining the pitch, getting commitment, getting verbal commitment, getting actual commitment, and then, of course, delivering the investment before they start working with you. And again, step one in this is measuring the data. So I used to do all of this in sheets, and we'd have all like VLOOKUPs and random pie charts. And I know I almost failed Excel in university, not gonna lie. So it's quite difficult to do that. Whereas like with Aura, you want all of your calls being piped in, so we can see all of the calls being tracked. If I went in here and seeing all our payments and seeing all our payment infrastructure when people buy, I won't show you right now because some of it could be sensitive data. But of course, we need to understand those numbers, right? Because honestly, all of these, the show rate and the close rate, bring you into these two numbers, which are just as important, if not more important, which is cash collected. So Cash collected is basically the money that's made on the call. The reason why we understand that is because if I go back into my analytics over here, to my dashboard, we need to do a few things. We need to really see how much actual money are we making on the call. So if you come down here, we need to see of the money that we make, how much of it is on the call, because this will understand our revenue per call. And let me just explain this in simple terms. If the revenue per call is very low, the reps are not actually efficient. You as a founder, you're not efficient. You're doing lots of split pays or you're not closing because it's not worth your time running these calls. So what we need to see is how much of the money that we make is actually made on the call. And if we can really dial that in, our cash collected will go up and we can manage these perfectly. So you may see a difference here between the per call and per show, because this is total calls being booked and the money being made. This is how much people that show up and how much we make them, because we need to see like all of this money trucking along, especially in the context of the total revenue, because you see up here the total revenue is constantly climbing, but we need to understand specifically how does that fit into the context of everything. So simple things here is like when you're looking at the data, especially like in Aura, and you see this data popping up and piping, you look at this and you think, okay, my cash collected is low, so the percentage of money that we make is quite low on the calls. What can we do? We can learn to handle objections more. We can bring in more qualified people that are A and B leads. We can look at the how do we run the calls? How can we get more money out of the calls? Because if you look at this right now, the issue is you're not making enough money on the calls. So you're doing lots of splits, you're doing lots of like kind of an MRR business. And look, that's fine. If you want to do this, some of my biggest friends in the industry do a style of business like this. But for me, running a high ticket sales team, we try to optimize for cash on the call because we make more money up front and we basically optimize it. That's as much as possible, okay? Because the second side of it then is looking at the total revenue. The total revenue then is otherwise known as total contract value. So if you sold a 5K program and the split was 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, well, the total contract value is 6,000. And what we've made overall when we collect those payments is this number. So it depends on what you're optimizing for with your high ticket sales team. But when you look at this data as simple and as clean as it is with Aura, right, that you're able to kind of see which one do I want to optimize for. Do I want to optimize for revenue on the call, or do I want to optimize for MRR, okay? Because we can see this thing here that if we come down, whereas we compare our close rate to our lifetime value. Because as you can see here with the sample data, the lifetime value is going up and down, and you see that some of the data is kind of piping and kind of popping, right? That's a bit of an issue because we don't want a LTV that's very like sporadic, up and down and up and down. We want to keep it very consistent. Because when it is consistent and it's consistently high, then what we can kind of do is we can focus on more acquisition. So let me give an example. You can run more ads, you can build out more sales teams, you could invest more in content, you can probably build out more products. So I try to understand like how do we get the numbers like super detailed and super consistent. As you see here, we set a limit of 8K. We want our LTV to be 8K. The average is a bit lower here. And same with our close rate, it's actually higher. This example that I took was from someone running cold traffic, so it was 25%, and the close rate's much higher, which is awesome. And yeah, overall, it gives us a lot of insight that you're not able to do. So I want you to kind of pause for a second and have a look at how does this look in the context of what you have for your actual sales team. And look, you don't need a sales team. This can be yourself. You can run your own sales yourself as a founder-led sales and see all the numbers being piped in correctly, because the funny thing is that when you see all the numbers, you can spot your cracks and you can look at it objectively. And especially with Aura, you're getting AI insights into saying that, hey, it's not okay that your show rate is 40%. It's not okay that your close rate is 18%. Here's how to make a fix. Because this was 100% the reason how we got to multiple seven figures in revenue. This is 100% how we have scaled to hundreds of clients. And specifically, we signed 181 clients in 2025 so far, which is pretty cool. So if you feel like you need to get more out of your revenue, look to automate, track, and manage all of your numbers, because we shouldn't be spending time in spreadsheets. You should be spending time on sales calls, generating revenue for your business.